Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Governor Larry Hogan is one of America's great governors in the Maryland state to my north when I live in Virginia. Good morning, Governor. Welcome back to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Hey, good morning. It's great to be with you, Hugh.
The Orioles are 58 and 52, so are the Cleveland Guardians. I sure hope they meet in the postseason and we talk about it then.
Well, that sounds good to me. I mean, the Orioles are certainly much better than a lot of people expected, and we'll take what we can get being, over 50-50.
Yeah, I generally don't try and talk to the governor during Ravens-Browns week, but I'll talk to him right now. Governor, let's talk about Mar-a-Lago.
I don't blame you for not talking to me during Ravens-Browns week.
That's pretty good. Maybe that will change. We'll see what Roger Goodell and his minions decide about Deshaun Watson. Give us your reaction, Governor, to the search at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, it was really kind of a totally unprecedented situation, and I read your piece about it, and I agreed with everything that you had to say. But I don't want to rush to judgment. It's certainly the federal government better provide overwhelming evidence that this action was absolutely necessary. Otherwise, I think it can have the potential to undermine faith in democracy and the rule of law. And we're so divided as a country today, dangerously divided. And Americans are starting to lose faith in our government institutions. And so I called on the Biden administration to release, at a minimum, the documents authorizing the FBI search. I understand it's a federal investigation, that they can't, tell us all the details. But I think it's critically important that the American people really deserve to know all the facts. And we need, I think, to go overboard with really unprecedented transparency and accountability from these organizations. So, no man is above the law, not even the President of the United States, and everyone's innocent until proven guilty. But it seemed to be an unusual situation, obviously. But I don't want to rush to judgment without knowing the facts.
You're a center-right, moderate conservative, Governor, and so I'm hoping the liberals in my audience will hear you say this could undermine the rule of law and stop and say, why does Larry Hogan think that? I know why Hugh Hewitt thinks that, but why does Larry Hogan think this search, legally conducted pursuant to a warrant signed by a federal magistrate, why do you think this might undermine the faith in the rule of law?
Well, I think because it's the first time we've ever had a former president's house raided in this manner, and but when we don't hear any information about why this happened, you can only assume that it has the potential to be, something that was a political action, and that's certainly, I understand that people being concerned about why this happened, how it happened, and the only way we can really get to restore faith in that this is actually a legitimate action is to tell us what it's about and how the FBI and the Justice Department and the federal judge decided that this was necessary. And if we can't get the Biden administration to release the documents, about authorizing the search, then we should get President Trump to release the documents. He has the documents about why they were doing the search.
Right, he's got a warrant. I'm not sure that he has the affidavit supporting the warrant. But, Governor, I do want to talk about allocation of Bureau resources. You have a lot of FBI agents living in your state, and they are important and valued members of our entire national fabric. They do great work. But I don't know where John Bolton lives, but the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Quds Force, does. I'm worried about people in front of Justice Kavanaugh's house, including an attempted assassination of him. I'm worried about an open border. I just don't know about the allocation of resources to boxes in Donald Trump's basement that this represents.
Well, yeah, I can't argue with that. And Maryland probably has a higher percentage of FBI agents living there than any other state. I would imagine we've got a higher percentage of federal employees than any other state. We surround the nation's capital. I just had a meeting with John Bolton last week in Annapolis. He lives in Maryland, and he does have security. I mean, I don't know all the details of these threats, but apparently it's still a concern. And we have been, both Glenn Youngkin and I, Governor of Virginia, have been pushing the Biden administration to do more at the federal level to help us. It's been state and local police trying to enforce the law, but there are federal laws protecting the Supreme Court justices, and they're really not doing it. We've gone several rounds with the the Justice Department and the police to protect the Supreme Court justices. And, we basically had to try to do their job, but we don't have the authority that they do over certain laws.
Governor, I always try and put myself in the shoes of the person I'm arguing with to come up with the best argument they can make. And I think the best argument they can make is we have a high-profile potential candidate for president, and we've got a political person with a potential criminal issue. What we did with Hillary Clinton was lay off, try and do it with kid gloves, and we got criticized for being soft on her. If we lay off, do it with kid gloves with Donald Trump, we'll be criticized by the left. So they're trying to do it different. That's the best argument I can come up with. Is that persuasive?
Well, it's pretty persuasive, and I'm not sure I disagree with that. That's why I think we need to get be transparent, tell us why and how they arrived at the decision, because maybe there's another explanation we don't know about. But yes, in the absence of fact and without them talking about what happened, you can only assume that it potentially was exactly what you're saying. But the flip side, and we don't know, we won't know until later. Flip side is I really can't imagine, and maybe I'm being naive, but it seems it's unlikely to me that I have a great deal of respect for the people that you just mentioned that live in the state of Maryland that are FBI agents that fight to uphold the law every day. And my dad's was a former FBI agent, my uncle and a couple of my cousins, and I've always had admiration for the institution, and I know they've had some issues, but it's hard for me to imagine that the entire top leadership of the FBI and the entire top leadership of the Justice Department and a federal judge all thought it was a good idea to do this for a political statement. I think that's why I've been pushing to try to get more information. I never try to jump to conclusions without having data, and I don't know the facts, but it's certainly very, very concerning, and it has inflamed the country. And,
it has, and I could literally do every minute of every show, but I've got to talk about other things with you because this matters to me as well. The IRS is getting 87,000 new employees, most of whom will be agents, over 10 years, but that's half the size of the Marine Corps. That's the Democrats' answer to inflation. What do you think about that, Governor?
Well, first of all, I'd rather have 87,000 more Marines than IRS agents.
Yes.
For sure. It's outrageous. And, just even just saying you're going to grow any bureaucracy in the federal government by 87,000 people is something that sounds absurd because we continue to have federal government growing out of control. But when you talk about 87,000 people that are going to be potentially, coming after average taxpayers, that's very, very concerning.
And that is what I don't know what they're going to run on. I really don't. Inflation, recession, crime soaring in places like Baltimore, and you know that it's not just Baltimore, it's suburbs as well. We've got, and I'm going to talk about education next. What are Democrats going to run on, Governor?
Well, that's a great question. I don't think they do have much to run on, and I think it's, they failed. And Joe Biden's been a terrible president. We've got the Democrats are in control of everything. All of those problems can be pinned directly to them. It should be a huge Republican year, as long as we don't blow it. And so we've got to keep I don't want to take anything for granted. Sometimes we get a little complacent. We're going to have to fight to win these races. So we've got to focus on our message. And our message should be focused on the economy and on crime and on education and all the things that you just mentioned, not just pointing fingers about how they failed, but what we're going to do about it and why Republicans are better. And so I think we need to stay focused on the issues people care about. We've got to be able to convince not just the base of our party, but we've got to be able to convince independents and even some discerning Democrats that we have the better ideas and we can do a better job of governing. And that's how you win elections. And that's, successful politics is about addition and multiplication. We've lost too many races. I'm tired of losing. We lost the White House, the Senate, the House. We've lost governor's seats and state legislative bodies. I think it's about time we figure out how to continue to go back to winning.
Richard Nixon famously remarked during the 1968 campaign about the Goldwater supporters that he couldn't win without them, but he couldn't win with just them. And that is what you just said, addition and multiplication.
That's exactly where we are. And look, we have to, and I did this, by the way, in Maryland, in the bluest state in America. a state that Trump lost by 33 points. I ran 45 points ahead of him. It's much tougher than California. And, I won the exact same vote among base Republicans and self-described conservatives as Donald Trump did. But I also added to that by winning Asians and Hispanics and the suburban women vote, and by getting 35% of the black vote in a state that has one of the highest black populations, running against the president of the national NAACP. We have to find a way to have a message that appeals to more people. That's what successful politics is about. Otherwise, we can just keep preaching to the choir and not be in control of anything.
Yesterday, Senator Scott said to me, the Republican Party has to become the party of parents. And your successor as chairman of the Republican Governors Association, Doug Ducey, just passed the most extensive reform of public schools ever by making a backpack bill in Arizona available to every parent in Arizona. It's been challenged, of course, by the teachers union. Do you think we ought to put that at the heart of the Republican Party, an appeal to parents taking control of their kids' education again?
I think there's no question that's a huge issue, and that's part of the reason we were able to help get Glenn Youngkin elected to Virginia, talking about it, getting parents having more of a role in their education. And Doug Ducey, who's a very good friend and a colleague, we served together in the Governors Association, Republican Governors Association. He's the chair of, and he's a darn good governor. And we just had an RGA meeting not too long ago where all the governors, were praising him and applauding him for the tremendous success he had there. And I think it's a great example of what we ought to be doing in other states and what we ought to think about trying to do at the federal level.
Okay, last question, Governor. When are you going to make your decision on running for 2024? And whether or not you do, when should the RNC start getting the would-be nominees together for conversations?
Well, those are both good questions. I am here in Iowa, about to go to the Iowa State Fair. I'm looking forward to eating a pork chop on a stick, and I'm going to be with Governor Reynolds here in a little while. I'm meeting with some police officers and firefighters. It's Heroes Day at the Iowa State Fair, and I'm going to thank them for their service. But I have said, and I really mean it, I'm not going to even talk about the future, figure out what I'm going to do until next year. I think we have to see what happens in the 2022 election first before we talk about 24. And I've got a pretty important day job that is going to I still have a job until next January as governor of Maryland, and I'm going to finish that job and run through the tape and do the best job I can. And we have plenty of time. We've got 2 more years till the next election.
But, the RNC is setting the rules for the debates and the forums right now. And you've got 2 members of the Republican National Committee from Maryland. Do you want them to get the people to – I think every time we get Republicans on the same stage, the Republicans win. I really do.
Well, that's very true. I mean, we have a lot of diversity on different things, and we have different ways of coming about. But I think that the American people need to see and hear all of those different voices. I'm all about, Ronald Reagan. I was the chairman of Youth for Reagan. I'm all about building a bigger tent, and so I think it's important. The more we can get together, and the more you can hear, the more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned. Candidates can get out there and be a voice.
Governor Hogan, have a great time at the Iowa State Fair. That tells us volumes about where you'll be in 2025, but I appreciate your talking to me this morning. Larry Hogan, governor of Maryland and a friend of the program, even if he is a Ravens fan. Stay tuned, America. Elliot Ackerman is next on the Hugh Hewitt Show.